Daily Detroit is brought to you by the community. Support our work at patreon.com/dailydetroit.
From the Paris of the Midwest, this is your Daily Detroit for Wednesday, October 14th, 2020. I'm Jer Stays. Our feature conversation is with Robyn Cleveland. He joins me and engineer Randy Walker to share with us their new limited edition Strawberry Norden Aquavit, a locally made spirit with international roots. And it benefits a good cause. But first, some things to know around town. Let's get started, as we do, with the latest on the pandemic. With nearly 1,400 new COVID-19 cases and 13 deaths reported Wednesday, the state of Michigan now has more than 139,000 confirmed cases and 13 fatalities since this thing started. Oakland, Wayne, and Macomb counties are all seeing case increases per 100,000 residents, with Macomb continuing to rise faster than other areas. With that in mind, I thought I'd share that there is a free COVID-19 testing location in Macomb, open 3 days a week. It's at 380 Rose Street in Mount Clemens, and it's open on Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays from 9 a.m. to 3 p.m. County officials say that no appointment or symptoms are necessary to be tested. Hospitalizations and cases per 100,000 are up statewide to levels near where we were back in April, and state officials are warning a second wave may already be here. In a late-night session up in Lansing that ended early Wednesday morning, legislators in the Michigan House and Senate passed a number of bills to replace previous orders by Governor Gretchen Whitmer. Many of them mirror the orders that she gave. They include a bill extending unemployment benefits to 26 weeks, extending expiration dates for driver's licenses and registrations until mid-December of this year, allowing for virtual open meetings and electronic signatures for official documents during the pandemic. And in a compromise between Republicans and Democrats, they approved bills providing some liability protections to healthcare workers, businesses, and employees for being sued around coronavirus infections. Finally, they passed a bill creating care and recovery centers in nursing homes. In a move with a big potential impact right here in Detroit, the U.S. Supreme Court approved with just one dissenting justice a request that the Trump administration can end census field operations on Thursday, October 15th, instead of October 31st. We touched on this during a previous conversation on the show, and the worries that urban, poor, and majority-minority areas of the country will be undercounted. Lower courts had previously ordered the census, ran through the Commerce Department, to keep counting through October 31st. But the administration argued that the census must move to the processing phase right away to have time to meet the constitutionally mandated end-of-year deadline for a report to Congress. The pandemic has complicated census counting and may have severely impacted it. In some areas of Detroit, the census completion rate is just 50%. The results of the census have a number of impacts on the community, from how many legislators an area gets, to federal funding, to business investment and development planning. Taylor Police and Wayne County prosecutors are having to answer questions around use of force after a WXYZ TV report made public body cam footage that did not match what was said in charging documents. 33-year-old Brendan Morgan, a black man, was attempting to comply with police after being pulled over in April. A woman who claimed to be his girlfriend had called police and told them that they had fought and Morgan damaged her apartment. So here's where things go haywire, according to the body cam footage. Morgan is pulled over in his vehicle after about 30 seconds as he found a well-lit place to do so. After Morgan puts his hands up in his vehicle, almost immediately, one of the officers punches him in the face, then others grab him and pull him out of the car and push him to the ground. Then they tased him, with no visible resistance from the suspect. Officers throughout used strong and expletive-laden language and said, quote, "Welcome to Taylor," unquote. In the WXYZ report, Taylor Police Chief John Blair said that he disciplined the officers the night of the arrest for their behavior. He also contended the comment, "Welcome to Taylor," wasn't a racist one. Wayne County prosecutors did not see the videos until they asked for it 2.5 months after the April incident, and that's in June. And even then, prosecutors and police still continued forward with the charges, despite Taylor Police claims that immediate disciplinary action was taken against the officers involved. The felony charges were still filed, which the defendant and his lawyer say caused legal fees, time, and anguish. I'll put a link to the show notes to the full report, and you can watch the videos for yourself there, but it is an interesting story. And finally, before our feature conversation, the Frozen Four NCAA hockey tournament did not happen this year due to the pandemic, but Little Caesars Arena landed something that will put a lot of eyes on Detroit in 2024. The Motor City will be home to one of the regional hosts for the 2024 NCAA men's basketball tournament. Both the Sweet 16 and Elite 8 will be played here. The host teams will be the University of Detroit Mercy and Oakland University. This is on top of the already planned first and second round games of the next NCAA tournament, scheduled for March 18th and 20th of 2021. Joining me and engineer Randy Walker on the line virtually is Robyn Cleveland from Norden Aquavit. Welcome back to the show, sir. It's been more than a year that we've talked about your spirits.
Yeah, thanks so much for having me back. It's always fun to chat with you.
So first off, in case people weren't listening a year ago, tell us a little bit about Norden and its kind of uniqueness, because it is from our area, but it's got inspiration from across the ocean.
Norden is our brand. Aquavit is the category. So Aquavit as a spirit has been around for a little over 500 years. It originates in Scandinavia. And what it is it's a botanical spirit that's distilled similar to gin, but the main flavor comes from caraway or dill as the main flavors. Ours has 10 total botanicals, caraway being the main flavor driver, and then we have lots of citrus and some floral elements as well.
I'm a gin drinker myself, but I know that gin isn't universally loved, and I find this to have, just from a personal perspective, a little bit more universal appeal than gin. It's a little friendlier, if you will.
Yeah, it's funny that you say that, because that was sort of our goal. We could capture the attention of the gin drinker, but also ease people into botanical spirits by way of introducing them to Aquavit. We actually have a little juniper in the recipe, but it's not nearly enough to have it be confused with gin. We have a lot of crossover with gin botanicals as well. So we use the juniper, of course, and then orris root, coriander, and angelica. All three are very common in gin recipes.
Well, and you're a Michigan-based business, and listeners of the show will know that you were behind something to get to-go cocktails to start to happen in the state. You've been very active. How has the pandemic been for you and what's going on at Norden?
On the very beginning, it was really rough. The majority of our business has been centered around bars and restaurants. And with the closures and limited seating capacities, we definitely took a hit as well. That was part of the inspiration of working towards getting the law passed to allow for to-go cocktails. The other side is that having come from that industry and having so many friends that I was watching struggle, I wanted to help out as best I knew how. It took a long while, but we originally were going for an executive order, and that never happened. But we managed to make some connections in the legislature, and we got 5 years of to-go cocktails passed for Michigan, which is pretty huge.
Let's talk about your newest offering here. I'm kind of excited about it. It's strawberry based. I'll reveal to listeners that I have not tried this before. I have a freezing cold bottle right here next to my microphone. But can you kind of walk through what this is and what it benefits? Because there is kind of a community give back part of this project.
This is a very limited release. We only produced 1,200 bottles, and we're selling this in Michigan only for this year at least. We may expand it into other markets next year. Going back a ways to spring, I was actually meeting with a pretty well-known Detroit bartender by the name of Melanie Mack. And Melanie and I were discussing ways to collaborate on a community give back, something that would be special to collaborate between herself and the Norden brand, just to do something for the Detroit community or the Michigan community as a whole. And she came up with the idea of the Breast Cancer Awareness Month tie-in. So I had been playing around with these, what we call Pink Aquavit, for a while now. With this idea, we thought a special release would be perfect. So we're doing this, like I said, 1,200 bottles. The idea is to push it through October for Breast Cancer Awareness Month. We've got over 24 bars and restaurants across the state doing special cocktails all month long, donating at a minimum of $1 for each drink sold to a Michigan charity. So the Michigan charity is called the Pink Fund. It's a nonprofit breast cancer organization. They provide 90-day non-medical cost of living expenses to breast cancer patients that are in active treatment. And the idea is to just sort of alleviate some of the burdens so they can focus on healing and ultimately returning back to work or returning back to their normal home life in a better state. For this recipe, we took Michigan strawberries, put it in our base spirit, so our normal aquavit, which we call Tafel style. This is a Danish style of aquavit that is strong caraway forward, unaged, and a little higher proof. So it's bottled at 45% normally. We took that base. Back in June, we got Michigan strawberries, we got Michigan rhubarb, and we let that soak in a tank with the aquavit for about 2 months. At the end of the 2 months, we filtered all of that out and we added dried hibiscus flowers for this really nice kind of earthy, sweet balance of flavor and super bright kind of pinkish reddish color. And I did a vapor distillation, which means we let steam pass through a column and we put rose petals in a column. And we did this we didn't do it with alcohol. There's no ethanol. It's just water. So basically we made rose water. Anybody familiar with Middle Eastern cooking knows that is a really popular ingredient in lots of recipes. So it's got this really bright floral note, but it's not overly perfumey. And we just put enough in it to heighten the floral notes that are already in our normal recipe. We added a touch, very, very small amount of sugar, still within the legal limits of the definition in Europe of what an aquavit is. So it's not by any means liqueur territory. Trust me when I say it's not sweet. Just got enough to kind of smooth out the edges and take away any sort of medicinal flavors. And it is bottled at a little lower proof. So we're at 38% alcohol, just above the legal limit for aquavit, which is 37.5%.
Yeah, I was looking at the bottle, noticed the lower alcohol content, which, I kind of appreciate as I kind of get into my craft cocktailness. And the other thing I got to tell listeners, the bottles are gorgeous. Like if you love Art Deco, these bottles that you guys do are just stunning and something that just belong on a classy bar shelf. I am big into merchandising. I am big into making sure it looks the part. These bottles definitely do it. I don't know how you feel, Randy.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, I like that you kept the bottle design the same and just changed the color for this new product. It ties it together.
Thank you. Yeah, big shout out to Ben Kuczynski, who does all of our design work. He's amazing. We really wanted to keep the same brand identity, not change it up too much. Or just the wording is a little different on the side, just kind of explains the release. And then ingredients are all still listed on the bottle. And then we have the addition of the Michigan strawberry, rhubarb, hibiscus, and damask rose for our limited snaps edition. If you guys aren't familiar with what snaps is,
I was going to ask you about that.
Yeah, so that's sort of a catch-all term for any sort of shot in Scandinavia. If somebody says have a snaps with me, it's like have a shot. But it also, in a broader sense, is any sort of flavored alcohol. There's a term called spice snaps. I'm not going to butcher the pronunciation in Danish. It's spelled KRYDDERSNAPS. That's sort of a tradition of taking whatever's in season and soaking it in your base spirit and preserving the flavor of the season. So that's exactly the inspiration for what we're doing here. We'd like to think this is Michigan summer in a bottle, and it's really nice to still be able to enjoy that in these cooler months that are ahead.
Yes, it's a little chillier with the dog walk. So I will give listeners the benefit of the sound of my fresh bottle here before we get into this. And this is really my first taste of this stuff. So here we go. And a little pour here. I'm going to do the straight, the true snaps or shot kind of idea here.
Chilled is very traditional, and this recipe in particular is quite nice chilled. I don't always enjoy my aquavit cold. I actually prefer it room temperature, and I definitely encourage people to drink our normal recipe, only slightly chilled. Frozen is a little too cold, but this one is nice frozen. It's also really friendly with tonic, and in particular, Fever Tree Mediterranean tonic.
Yes.
I developed this recipe to mix with tonic well.
Randy, what am I picking up on the nose?
I would say you're probably picking up the rose a a little bit.
Okay.
And the strawberry I pick up on the nose as well.
Yeah.
Strawberry for sure. It's mostly strawberry as far as what we added to it.
Well, Randy, Robyn, down the hatch, eh?
Cheers.
Cheers.
To Detroit.
So it's a little smoother than your normal spirit. I noticed that it's a bit more floral initially, and that's where I get a lot of the fruity flavors too, like the strawberry.
Yeah, I think strawberry and citrus jump out, and definitely florals there, both on the initial taste and then on the finish as well.
The finish is where I get a lot more of the herbal notes from the traditional aquavit.
I will tell both of you, I could get in trouble with this very quickly in a good way. Like, bring this out to the bonfire or something like that, and just, I mean, very rarely, bourbon I will do straight, things like that, but this is definitely able to be done straight. The thing about it that I think is interesting is that, yes, there's an alcohol to it. Yes, there's a thing to it because you're doing a shot. But, like, I feel really good afterward. Like, I feel clean. I don't feel the heaviness that some spirits give me. Randy, what am I kind of triangulating it right?
Yeah, I think that's pretty accurate. And I think part of that is the lower ABV. But also, I feel like this is more, if you're familiar with tasting, I feel this is more like a mouth and throat warming than a chest warming finish.
Yes. That's exactly it. Where I'll say this is a little bit different for the clearer spirits versus, say, for me, I'm a bourbon guy. The bourbon will like warm you up from like all the way down, all the way up.
Yeah, they call that the Kentucky hug, right?
Yeah, the Kentucky hug. This is like more of like, and I appreciate it, but it's definitely much more of like a warm peck on the cheek.
Like a Nordic kiss.
Yes, it's a Nordic kiss.
Go.
It's very affectionate. This loves you. This you can enjoy over and over, which I really appreciate. Randy, you're the mixologist. Well, both of you are, but what would you do as far as cocktails for the both of you if I'm going to do more than straight and more than, say, tonic, which I'm always a fan of doing a good tonic?
So I started experimenting with this as soon as I got it. I, of course, tried it neat to see what it tasted like, and then added a few things like vermouth and Benedictine to amp up some of the fruity flavors and the herbal flavors. But I definitely could see some improvements in that. So I'm going to yield to the professional bartender to say what he would recommend for making this into a cocktail.
All right. So believe it or not, I haven't been doing too much cocktailing with this because we've been so busy making it, bottling it, and talking about it. But I have been enjoying two cocktails in particular. We've been making Negronis with this. But the twist is that we use Coqui Rosa for the vermouth instead of a sweet vermouth. So it's a bit lighter and kind of plays off the rose notes and some of the other floral elements.
It's important to not get overly cloying with your drinks, at least for me.
Yeah. I lean towards citrusy drinks a lot of times. So I've also been experimenting with gimlets with this, which I think is fun. You call it a gimlet, call it a daiquiri. Think of like a strawberry daiquiri.
Yeah.
Just a little lime juice, a little simple syrup, and this strawberry aquavit. It's really nice.
So my go-to with your traditional aquavit is use it in place of gin in cocktail recipes. And that sounds like what you're recommending too with your gimlet or your Negroni.
Yeah, the pink gin category has actually exploded in the past 3 or 4 years, and I would be lying if I said that wasn't an inspiration. So I would say for sure you can use this in place of gin still. It's got much more of like a dessert vibe as well, so like after dinner or in a sweeter drink if that's the way you like to enjoy drinking. I think a martini could be great too. I have not done it yet, but it could be awesome.
Randy, you have an assignment.
Well, luckily I live across the street from the party store, so getting some dry vermouth should not be a problem.
Yeah, I just picked up some lo-fi dry vermouth today. It's brand new in Michigan, and I'm excited to mix the two of these.
Wow, that's excellent. All right, so two quick things. First off, I got to ask if you want to get a hold of the bottles, how does somebody do that?
Best way to find them, because it's very limited and we only have it at a select few retailers. You can find on our website, www.nordenaquavit.com. Immediately there'll be a pop-up for the limited release, and there's a map attached to that pop-up if you click through the pop-up. If for some reason you don't get the pop-up, go to the very base of our web page and there's a limited edition button. You can click on that. There, you can type in your zip code in your location, anywhere in Michigan, of course. It will pop up with bars, restaurants, and retailers. So yeah, we always recommend calling ahead of time to verify the stock. We've had a couple of places that have either run out or some that actually haven't received it yet. But again, call to verify stock. Also, for those listening that are out of state, you can go to woodswholesalewine.com. That link is on our website as well. They will ship to, I believe, 42 states plus DC, and then many countries around the world as long as they receive FedEx packages.
Well, and I'm clicking around through a few of these, and I want to shout out that if you're up in the Oakland County area, there's a few places to get it, including Holiday Market, which I know a lot of people go to. Over on the east side, I got to give love to Park Place.
Park Place,
because that was actually my uncle's favorite liquor store growing up. And that was, that's literally 4 decades they have been serving the booze needs over there, and they do a great job. And then I also got to shout out the neighborhood bar, Kiesling, where you will find yours truly in non-pandemic times or maybe on a patio, that they carry it, as well as a few other very fine establishments.
Yeah, I'm going to have to duck over to Mabel Gray and see what Paul's doing with this.
Oh, that's a great suggestion, Randy.
Yeah, I'm excited to see what everybody's doing. We haven't had much word on what some of these cocktails are going to be, so it'll all be sort of unfolding throughout the coming weeks and throughout the month. And we'll be posting a lot of stuff on our Instagram, which is just at Norden Aquavit, just trying to keep everybody updated on how they can continue to support the Pink Fund. We're donating $4 of every bottle. If folks wanted to donate directly, there's a text to give feature. We've got a little note on the bottle. You just text Caraway, CARAWAY, to the number 44321.
That's excellent to hear. Robyn Cleveland, thank you so much for sharing another spirit with us. And good luck and cheers to you, sir.
My absolute pleasure. Thank you so much for having me. Cheers.
Cheers.
And that is the end of your show for today. Thank you so much for listening to Your Daily Detroit. A reminder that if you want your voice heard, you can leave a voicemail at 313-789-3211 or send me a note at dailydetroit@gmail.com. Also, of course, we are member powered, and I got to tell you, patreon.com/dailydetroit is the way to become a member. Well, I'm Jer Stays. Take care of each other, and I'll see you around Detroit with a mask on. Talk tomorrow.